Got some music going in the background. We're still in Exodus 10, 1 to 13, 16. So let's do it.
You said verse 5?
Yeah, we're gonna get started in verse 5. That's where I left off last time.
All right. And they will cover the surface of the land, and no one will be able to see the land, and they will eat the remainder of what is left over for you from the hail. And they will eat every sprouting tree belonging to you from the field.
Okay.
This is after he's saying, if you're still refusing to release my people.
Yeah, if you're refusing. Yeah, you still refuse to release my people. V'kisa et ein ha'are below yechal lirot et ha'aretz v'achal et yeter ha'peleta ha'nesheret lachem min ha'barad. Oh my gosh, it's just like pretty endless. It's the idea that he's going to wreak havoc on them and bring destruction in addition to the hail. And they held out hope after the hail came to pass because they still had some crops that would be open. So this is to say you don't have a chance. There's no point in having any hope. So we're in Exodus. Yeah, you can go on. Let's move. I mean, we could talk about the locust. This is a very important plague because it gets picked up again in Joel. It gets picked up again in Revelation. And it's a physical symbol of an unseen army. And Yahweh can commission the army and send it and do with it whatever he wants. And they're a destructive army. No, you can't fight them. You can't beat them. If you pick up a sword, you can't fight this army. So that's kind of dark.
And your houses will be full, and the houses of all your servants, and the houses of all Egypt, something that your fathers and your grandfathers never saw from the day they were on the earth until this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh.
Yeah, so he says this is going to be a sign and a wonder no one's ever seen, no one in the father's generation. It's going to be a one-off. So it's going to be completely new, completely unknown. Let's see. Yeah, and their houses will be full. And your servants' houses will be full. And the houses of all in Egypt, which they did not see your fathers, or the father of your fathers, from day to day on the land until this day. By pen. Let's see. That's a little loud, isn't it? Yeah, okay, go to the next one.
And the servants of Pharaoh said to him, until when will this be a snare for us? Release the men so that they may serve Yahweh their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed?
Yep. The servants are speaking truth. But Yomru Abde Pharaoh Elav. Until what point? Until when? And it's actually, they mirror, what's funny is they mirror the question that Yahweh brings through Moses. Until when will you do this? And his servants are now basically pantomiming Yahweh, repeating the words of Yahweh. Until when will you do this to us? Or be a snare to us? It's funny. Okay. It's a snare to catch a bird. They can't get out of it. Shalach et anashim ve'avu et Yahweh. Release the men so they may serve Yahweh their God in the wilderness. And Tedaki Avda, that it's been destroyed, that it's undergone destruction. Do you not know that it's been destroyed? That's already done. The action's already done. Okay. Now they're going to call back Aaron and Moses.
And the servants of Pharaoh said to him, and Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, serve Yahweh your God. Who are the ones going?
Elohechem, do it, but
who all over there?
Let me get involved in how you do it. This isn't submission. Yeah. Pharaoh still insist that he is king. The way that would actually, the thing that would rescue Pharaoh is if he said, I have no authority. I surrender all authority to the one who's obviously wielding all authority anyways without my permission. Yeah. But he still pretends he has. He won't let go of the idea that he is king. At this point for Sod reading, don't read Pharaoh in some weird, made-up, 15th century mystic reading. Okay, read Pharaoh in a Romans 9 sense, a true Romans 9 sense. Paul uses Pharaoh in a way that is kind of points out, like he's aiming at the heart of his Jewish audience, and he's saying, because he's going to say later in 11 that they're undergoing a partial hardening, but if they let it go and they choose faithfulness, they'll be grafted in again. So Pharaoh becomes this universal symbol for all of us. This is what we are. This is what we do. Yahweh puts signs in front of us, and when we see them, we refuse to acknowledge that he is king and submit to him. So Pharaoh can teach all of us. Pharaoh reveals all of our hearts. So here he is, continuing. Like, we do this as well. I would also say when God gives you a word and God says, this is the action I want you to take, and you say, okay, but let me add to it this way. And how are we going to, it's like to kind of take the command and then almost like re-seize it and make yourself king again. It's like a servant pretending to be the master in front of the master. So go on, I think.
And Moses said, with our young and with our old we'll go, with our sons and with our daughters, with our sheep and goats, and with our cattle we'll go, because it is the feast of Yahweh for us.
Yep. Yeah, this is a cool thing. So Vayoma Moshe, Binarenu, Bizkenenu, Nelech, Bavanenu. This covers everyone. So Moses is saying, we're going to go with our young and with our old, with our sons, with our daughters. And then he says, with our sheep and with our goats, we go, Nelech, because, and he gives a reason. It's Ki Chag Yahweh Lanu. It's a feast of Yahweh for us. Chag, you'll hear this in Israel. Chag Sameach, happy holiday, or happy feast. It's a joyous feast. Okay, so it's a joyous feast, which is why everyone needs to do it. So it's a ritual. That's why young to old, all this. So it's a ritual, and then also that's why we need our cattle, so we can perform the rituals for sacrifice. And you'll see. Continue. Read on.
So he already this is interesting because this is before well, I'm guessing written after he gave the law. But they haven't had like
festivals
or feasts or
not that we know of. No, not at all.
So I wonder if Yeshua, or if Yahweh told him.
Yeah, he did, because he
said
him
it's a feast.
Well, think of it this way. He said, here's one of the signs Yahweh gave to Moses. And it's like a sign that's going to take a friggin' long time to be fulfilled. Just one of the signs is you're going to worship me. The word worship. You're going to feast before me. You're going to be joined to me. So he already understands that there's going to be a feast. So yeah, it predates any kind of Michael. It predates any Michael. But this feast predates any of the Torah. So it prophesies the fact that the whole point in God rescuing them is so they can feast with him and be with him. So this is even a parallel for the gospel. There's this like Yeshua talks about this final feast that everyone's going to be invited to, and it looks like being rescued and brought out to feast. It's the same idea. And Chag is a very positive word. It doesn't even just mean it means celebrate, celebratory.
Okay. And he said to them, let Yahweh be thus with you as soon as I release you and your dependents, so that evil is before your faces.
Vayomer alehem yehi chen Yahweh imachem ka'asher ashalach etchem ve'et Tapchem ra'u ki ra'a neged panechem. Huh, interesting. He basically he threatens. He's threatening them. He says, you better get Yahweh to save you if you try to leave without your dependence. Because I see that there's evil in front of you, that you're intending harm. You're going to escape. You're not coming back. It's funny because if you listen carefully to what he's saying, let my people go and this kind of thing, initially it seems only for a chag, only for a festival.
Right.
It doesn't even seem to say permanently. Like this is what he puts in front of Pharaoh.
Right.
Right now, there's no mention of permanency. So continue.
No, indeed, just the men go and serve Yahweh, since this is what you are seeking. And he drove them out from the presence of Pharaoh.
Yeah. Hagavarim that you do it. Yeah, you take the mighty men or the men with you, the men, and go worship Yahweh. Kyota atim mabakshim. That's what you're seeking. And he drove them. He kicked them out. Goreshi, just get that out of my face. So then we're in verse 12.
And Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt with the locusts, so that they may come up over the land of Egypt, and let them eat all the vegetation of the land, all that the hail left behind.
Stretch out your hand over the Moshe. Nitei yadecha. Stretch out your hand on the land of Israel. Ba'are. With the locusts. Wow. So that they may come up over the land of Egypt and let them eat all the vegetation of the land, all that the hail left behind. There was a lot of actually back and forth and warning in this one. This plague is quite terrible.
Yeah.
Notice that this is something like your fathers have never seen. He says it about the frogs too.
Right.
But it's a grave and heavy sign. Okay.
And Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and Yahweh drove an east wind into the land all that day and all night. The morning came, and the east wind had brought the locusts.
They eat all the greenery. Interesting. So the wind. This is also, again, their physical representation of spiritual army. Vayet Moshe et Mateus, we stretched out his staff, all Eretz, on the land of Eretz Mitzrayim over Egypt. Yahweh nihag ruach. So Yahweh, let's see here. Nahag is to lead or drive. Okay, so Yahweh nihag ruach, he sends a driving eastern wind, the wind of the east, which comes, the word for east is also antiquity. So like from ancient times, sends a spirit, the word for wind is spirit.
Right.
So he sends this driving spirit. Which is, honestly, it's the reversal of the role of the Spirit in creation. So the role of the Spirit hovers over the state of tohu vavohu, and it results in light, and then it results in division of waters, and then it results in land and green vegetation coming up. And here we're going to see vegetation be reversed. You can imagine that it'll look like the Garden of Eden in front of them, wherever there's irrigated plants.
Right.
And then when the locusts pass over it, it goes back to desert or wilderness.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and they come from that eastern wind.
And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and they settled in all the territory of Egypt. Very severe. Before it there were not locusts like them, nor will there be after it.
Yeah, this idea of yanach, or arrested, it's something that, again, this is a cue, the linguistic cue that these guys are like seen as a spiritual army, almost like Elohim or something, because they're a physical manifestation of that idea. Because yanach means to rest. This is a word that's used for causing an idol to rest, causing like humanity to be the image of God, resting in the garden. An image is rested in the temple, it's placed there. It's a peculiar usage. And so these locusts rest on Egypt. It's they are like the image. They are like an image of destructive forces. They're
Okay.
Elohim gods. Yeah, and then Mitzrayim kaved me'od lefanav.
And they covered.
It says very severe, but what's funny is, yeah, Gavul Mitzrayim. So they rested on all. Gavul is the mountain boundary barrier. So on all the barriers within all the territory of Egypt, they rested. Kabed me'od, very, very heavy, very, very severe, very, very weighty, very, very, glorious or hard. This is similar to what Pharaoh does. And it was hard on their faces. Lo hayachin arbe kamohu acharav lo yahye. Yeah, there had never been before. There were not locusts before them like this, nor thereafter. Verse 15.
And they covered the surface of all the land, and the land was dark with them. And they ate all the vegetation of the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. And no grain was left in the trees, nor in the vegetation of the field in all the land of Egypt.
V'chaset ein kol ha'aretz. They covered the eye of the land, which is like the surface, the internal part of the boundary. It's an interesting word. They covered the edge of the boundary, up to the edges of the boundary is another way to say that, I think. V'chaset ein kol ha'aretz. Which is, that's so funny. No, that would be mouth, not eye. So they covered the eye of the whole land, the eye of the whole land. Interesting that they translate that surface.
What does that mean?
The entire opening of the land, anything that was open, they covered.
Oh.
Which is the idea of cover or conceal is like an eyelid shutting.
Yeah.
You make it blind or dark.
Oh, interesting.
We're weird. It's a weird thought. Because kasa is to conceal or hide. And they made it dark. That makes sense. Okay, and the land was dark with them, exactly. And they ate all the grain of the land and all of the fruit of the land, which hotir, all the which I guess remained yatar, they had left over from the hail, and not notar, and not any leftover of all the grain of the trees or the grain of the field, all the land of Egypt. This is the reversal. I mean, some of the key phraseology too is the reversal of creation.
Right.
The land. It's uncreation. It's returning to a state of uncreation, which is almost like Yahweh saying, okay, you won't acknowledge me as creator and sustainer and ruler. I'll just surrender the land over back to Tohu Vavohu. We're getting closer and closer to Tohu Vavohu. You keep rejecting me and rebelling against me. This is what a land looks like without me.
Okay.
I'm the creator. You fix it if it's your land and you want it back. If you want it back, I'll give it back to you the way I found it.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is pretty terrible. Okay. And this is an interesting verse. This is where we start to. This is one of the few times that we see Pharaoh. We see Pharaoh get like almost feigned repentance. It's not feigned, but he's being, the tug towards humility is there.
Yeah. And Pharaoh hurried to call Moses and Aaron, and he said, I have sinned against Yahweh your God and against you. And now forgive my sins surely this time, and pray to Yahweh your God so that he may only remove from me this death.
Whew. By my hair.
That's weird sentence.
But which one?
So that he may only remove from me this death.
Yeah. V'yasir me'alai rak et hamavet hazeh. Yeah, it is. So first, he hurries. By my hair, Paro. He's hurrying up. He's like rushing to them. Oh, what is, So he's rushing to them. Likro, and he to call Moses and Aaron, and he says, Chatati, I've sinned against Yahweh, LaYahweh, Elohechem, Velachem, and against you, their God, and these servants who sinned against them, his representatives. And now, Sana, lift off of me, bear up. This is also why in Isaiah 33 the word is bear. It means forgive. It doesn't mean bear or hold on to, but lift off of me. And this is actually quite literal with the locust.
Right.
Sa, lift off. Na, sana, please. Na is a word. It's an onomatopoeia, an exclamatory phrase in Hebrew, which means, oh, please.
Okay.
Nah, please. So it's like, lift off, please. I beg you, kind of, please. Chatati, ach, hapa'am. So, and lift off, and now lift off of me a sin. Surely, make this happen. Please tell me that you can do this in this instance, right? And at this point, at this moment, this is how bad it is. The Hebrew is showing you how severe it is. In this moment, reverse this thing, lift this thing off of me now, like now. We might say in English, like yesterday.
Yeah. So he's definitely getting desperate.
Oh yeah, he's desperate. Nahitru liYahweh, V'ha'itru liYahweh, and pray to Yahweh. Interesting. The word used for pray, it is ater. It means to plead or to supplicate. You guys plead and supplicate Yahweh, your God, and Yaser, make him to turn away from on me only the mavet, the death of this death. He calls it death, which it is death. It is absolute destruction of the land.
Right.
And then 18.
And he went out from Pharaoh and he prayed to Yahweh. Yahweh turned a very strong west wind and lifted up the locusts and thrust them into the Red Sea. And not one locust remained in all the territory of Egypt.
Yep. Okay. So he goes out from the presence of Pharaoh. Vayetar. He supplicates just like Pharaoh asks. He cries out and makes supplication. And there it is. And so he turns. Vayahafoch Yahweh ruchiyam. And so he turns a very strong chazak, a strong wind, a very strong wind. And there's the word. See, what does it say about the locust? What does he do in 19? What does the wind do?
Lift him up.
Yes, vayisa. So when he says sa na, please lift off, it says vayisa, and he lifted up the locust. Yeah, he did literally that. Yeah, v'yitkaehu yama, and he threw them into the sea, the Red Sea. This is a problem. Is this the only army that's thrown into the Red Sea?
No.
Watch this. Is this the only army that's thrown into the Red Sea because a great wind comes from Yahweh? It's the same thing. Like it's literally, he uses the wind to part the sea, and then if he uses the wind to open it, and then uses the wind, it's just like he uses the wind to sin it, and he uses the wind to destroy it. Again, these are signs in the truest sense. They are. We don't just mean signs of like, oh, it's really powerful. Look, you can talk to animals like Aquaman.
They're shining something.
they're pantomiming what's going to happen. They're pantomiming uncreation. They're showing you, they're foreshadowing what will happen to Pharaoh's forces. It's very, it's prophetic. And not one locust remained in the territory of Egypt. 20. Vayechazek Yahweh at Leiv Paro. Yahweh does it this time. Yahweh emboldens Pharaoh. And he doesn't. At this point, I think this is the first time Yechazeh is used of Yahweh. Each time he had done Kaveh, he'd been the one making it dull or heavy.
Right.
Now he's emboldening him. But Yechazek Yahweh et Leiv Paro, Lo Yishlach et Bnei Yisrael, and he won't send them. We're now in the territory of the narrative where Yahweh is just he's dealing with Pharaoh according to Pharaoh's words, and according to his wish, according to his works. So, okay, we move on to 21.
And Yahweh said to Moses.
By the way, sorry, at this point, think about the change in the spirit. This is a dark thought. the beginning of this narrative, Pharaoh is laughing at who is this God Yahweh, you hear that, right? And he's very strong, and he attacks the people of Israel even harder, and they have a very weak and crushed spirit. Imagine their state, or their state being transferred to each other. Imagine how emboldened and strengthened the people of Israel are becoming with these signs, especially after they stop affecting the land of Goshen, and they start to say, "Oh my God, we weren't lied to. We do have the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." We know from the book of Joshua they worship Egyptian gods as well, so they were confused and foolish. They didn't have right ritual, anything like that. But now there's this message: we really are the children of God. We really are loved. We really are protected. Imagine that. So it's like this transferal of states.
Yeah.
Pharaoh was just like, he's strong in spirit and all this kind of stuff, but then he wanes and weakens, and they get stronger. You can imagine.
Yeah.
And so this is a really cool plague. 21.
And Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the heavens, so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, and so that a person can feel darkness."
Yeah.
What is it?
Vayomer Yahweh el Moshe, Netei yadecha al hashamayim v'yehi choshech. This is darkness. This is a word for darkness that's used in Genesis as well. This is uncreation. Netei yadecha al hashamayim v'yamesh choshech. Yamesh comes from mashash, grasp, search, touch, handle. I think it could be, and it will be one that the darkness you can feel. Either that, and the word is he feel. Maybe it means you will have to grope about. In the darkness is probably implied, not necessarily feel the darkness. That's one way to translate the Hebrew, but it lacks an object, so it could mean they're just going to be forced to grope around.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That seems to be more fitting, I guess. Okay, verse 22.
And Moses stretched out his hand toward the heavens, and there was darkness of night in all the land of Egypt for 3 days.
Come on. Interesting. So Moses stretches out his hand here. I don't know if implied is he holds the staff, or if he just stretches out his hand. I think it's implied he holds the staff.
3 days.
Interesting. The staff is the source. It's the original sign.
Right. So then, yeah, you must have the staff.
Very interesting. I want to think of the sod reading meanings of the staff. And what does it represent? It ends up being sort of like a serpent staff. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so there he is. He does it, and darkness is there. And there was how long?
3 days.
Yeah.
Which is probably just coincidental.
Yeah, I know. V'yomer Yahweh el Moshe nitzei yadecha al hashamayim v'yehi choshech al eretz Mitzrayim v'yamesh choshech v'yed Moshe et yado al hashamayim v'yehi choshech afelah b'chol eretz. And there was darkness that fell, I guess. No, darkness like laid in the stars in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. It was like death. It was darkness completely in the land for 3 days. Now this is weird. This is weird. Verse 23 is super weird.
Okay. No one could see his brother, and because of it, no one could move from where they were for 3 days. Israelites in their dwellings. Interesting.
Yeah, very weird.
But in their dwellings.
So yeah, we're in 23.
So it's a little dark over there.
Uh-huh.
There's just light in their dwellings.
This is weird. Lora'u ish et achiv. A man couldn't see his brother. Velo kamu ish mit chatav. To chat is to underneath. They couldn't come out from underneath for 3 days, meaning they were under the roof. Ulechol b'nei Yisrael haya or b'mosh votam. I would say there's a sod reading in this regarding the Israelites or the people of God as dwellings themselves, that we would have light inside our tent. We would have light inside ourselves, but there would be no light in their tent. We have light. They have no light. We are alive. They are dead. And so I would say an important set reading for us to...
And everything outside their dwellings is covered in darkness.
Yeah, and this narrative is really important to Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah is this prophet that cried out for a new exodus and promises a new exodus from exile. And he promises rescue from... I think last time I did this when it fixed, it keeps that thing there and it still works. So we'll just not mess with that. That sucks. But Isaiah promises a new exodus, and it's in these terms. And Isaiah talks about an amplified exodus. And you do have this idea of light and darkness, and darkness being compared to having... darkness is compared to being in exile under the oppressive rule of Gentiles who lorded over you and crush you, and it'll cause light to dawn inside them, and I'll be their light. And so I think there's a lot of, if we were to take this story and imagine it being amplified, well, then that's the same strategy of Isaiah. He takes the story and his prophecy amplifies the story. It's going to be done in a greater way, and it'll reverse that.
Interesting, because then in 3 days he'll lift the darkness.
Yeah, which is, yeah, I would say so.
I don't know. Last time was so shitty. Wasn't it?
Yeah, but it got rid of, last time it got rid of this, and it's not doing that this time. So, end it. We'll go to you, and we'll close you. Okay. Okay. Done. Cool. Try again. Try again. Try again.
Try again. Try again.
Man, I just don't even want to name this now. I just want to do a live video, I think. Whatever. There we go. We'll do another one for you. Oh, how did that happen? Did that happen?
Josh, about you.
Oh, there we go. That was great. Thanks for that. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Good enough for me. Part 3. All right, start. Go live. Cool. Let's make this thing small too, because I wonder if some of it is trying to, some of the issue is trying to show us the pixels. Okay, we're live. All right, we're back on. All right, so yeah, so I think a way to read this is, obviously I think the darkness for 3 days, the sign is, Yeshua himself becomes the sign. It's weird. It's a very strange parallel. So I would say another sub-reading is Yeshua himself, obviously being in the darkness for 3 days, right before light dawns.
Right.
Yeah, which is also
And before, yeah.
it's also in Isaiah 53:11. He shall see light.
Okay, so then what are you? Okay, so then no one can see his own brother.
It's interesting because I want to read the Torah in light of the Torah, so I try to, when I want to understand it, I want to train it in light of that. I think of Cain. I think that Cain can't see his brother Abel.
No one can move from where they were.
Yeah, that it's almost like dead in your it's a sod reading, but it's reminiscent to me of being dead in your transgressions and unable to move about and unable to. You are already dead. You're unable to move. It's death because you're surrounded in darkness and you can't. And your tent, which is your house, which is representative of your body, is stuck, and you're stuck in it.
Yeah. Okay.
You're like a dead man. You have no freedom. There's no light in you. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. I think it's worth meditation. It's worth thinking through. Okay.
And Pharaoh called Moses and said, "Go serve Yahweh. Only your sheep and goats and your cattle must be left behind. Your dependents may also go with you."
V'yikra Pharaoh Moshe v'yomer l'chu yivdu et Yahweh rak otznechem u'v'karchem yitzag. This idea of yatzar is to set or place behind, leave it behind. Give me this incentive and keep it back, hold it back. And he even gives them the added, what do you call this? Even their little ones can go with them. Tough little children, those who toddle, those who can't march. Even those ones can go with you. And then 25.
Okay. And Moses said, even if you yourself put into our hands sacrifices and burnt offerings, and we offer them to Yahweh our God, our livestock must also go with us. Not a hoof can be left, because we must take from them to serve Yahweh our God. And we will not know with what we are to serve Yahweh until we come there. So is he being shrewd? Did Yahweh plan for him to say this? Or is he like just coming up with this on the spot with Pharaoh? That's not really explicitly stated, huh?
It's not explicitly stated. It's not stated anywhere. It could be an element of shrewdness on Moses' part. Maybe there was a conversation of or an implication. Yeah. I'll give you my own sheep, but you leave your sheep. I'll give you my own lives. Maybe there's that implication.
Yeah.
And because we do get some indication, I think, from first Zivachim is going to be a sacrifice that's eaten, but then Olot, burnt offerings. We do get this indication that it has to cost Israel. The sacrifices are from Israel. So it's not going to work if I take your animals and sacrifice it.
David's thing.
Yeah, exactly. Even so, it's very explicit. Not a hoof will be left behind, which is a very brazen statement. Everything I said before will happen. See, like he's already. This is not new information from Moses,
right?
So Moses is What I would say is one of the things we do know is Moses doubles down with the information and the charge Yahweh's given him. All of us and our livestock will go. All of us and our livestock will go.
Yeah, he just keeps repeating.
This is the same thing. Even if you give me stuff, all of us and our livestock will go. It's like it doesn't, which is very, very. Understand that Pharaoh gave him the last request, which is even the toddlers and the little ones. Which honestly, if you were a refugee people, like any word, there was just all that was smoke and mirrors and illusions. Now would be the time to get the hell out of Dodge. Take your kids
and go.
You'd still kind of die because you need food. It's still a threat, but at least you could try to scavenge or something, right? It's better than slavery. But Moses says, no. This is such an instruction to us. Like, we should not take the words of God or the charge of God and diminish it. We should not take the charge of God and say, well, compromise. Yeah. So when God puts you in front of people that are lost, or God gives you a message to take to people that are lost, avoid the temptation to be like, this is so close to what God said. It's just this one part that's missing.
Right.
It's like, no, it's what God said or it's not going to happen.
Right.
Which is so hard. It's so hard. I mean, our enemy tempts us in this regard. Our enemy functions like Pharaoh. Look, I'm even like, you're even going to get further.
Yeah, just take this one.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons Moses, for all of his, for how bold he is, Yahweh tolerates a lot of his argument and boldness, I think in part because he's faithful. One of the things Numbers says is Moshe is the most humble man on the earth.
Right.
And he really doesn't want to be the one to do it, but if he's going to do it, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
I think that is a heart that God prefers in all of us.
Yeah.
That we would lay out our weaknesses and our desperation, and if we're going to argue with him about our impotency and our weakness, do it. But if we're going to try to do it, we're going to try to do it. That's a heart, I think, that pleases Yahweh. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so then we have. Then 27.
Okay. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was not willing to release them.
Now stop. How did he do it? This is what's funny. The Yechazak Yahweh et leif paro below Avah. He was not willing to do it. He wasn't willing to send them out. How did he do it? The mechanism of hardening is not explored. I'll give you an example. In the Torah, Genesis 1 says, Yahweh made the beasts of the earth. But then it says the earth totse, like sprung out or produced them. And you, at this point, we can't say, aha, the Torah is lying, or the person who wrote one verse is an idiot in the next verse. It's like, this is retarded. For them, the teleological, let's use a big word there, the teleological responsibilities that Yahweh ultimately does it.
However he causes it.
But he does it through this means. He uses this tool, right? To produce it, this which is the earth in that instance. Well, in this instance, it does not, just because Yahweh hardens his heart, it has no bearing on the fact that there was a tool.
Right.
The scary part of this is choices that we have to make. Like, that's why the verse, now is the day of salvation, today is the day of salvation. It's so scary, dude. I've done this where I've been in front of people where Yeshua gives me a hard word, where literally the word is in front of a man. You will die if you do not accept this today. And they're like, and I literally heard a man say to me one time, is today really the day? I was like, it is the day. And he died that night. Right? He was resuscitated and brought back to life in the hospital. But literally, like, the thing that God will use to, like, that's what he says. Psalm 95 says, be careful that you don't have a hard heart. I think the functional impetus, the functional tool that Yahweh uses for Pharaoh is still the moral choice in the situation right there. This person that
just that choice to say,
partly the choice coming out of the mouth of Moses and Aaron. I justify that textually to say, I sinned against Yahweh and I sinned against you, is what he says after the locust. So he does see them, but seeing them is a little different from seeing Yahweh.
Yeah.
Yahweh gives signs, so you should see behind the locusts unseen armies. Don't F with me.
Right.
You do see Moses and Aaron. You should see beyond them Yahweh. But God, it's tempting to just see Moses and Aaron.
Yeah, well, too, that's also just like, I mean, that whole thing has to be humiliating for him.
It is.
Because
he's giving concessions.
He's just using men, and he won't show up. He's like, it's, Yahweh's like, not.
This is essentially, if you've ever watched a negotiation operation movie with hostages.
Yeah.
Pharaoh is the shittiest negotiator ever at this point. It's the worst negotiation back and forth ever written. And he has all the power. It should be working out in his favor.
Right.
And each step, he has to give more and more concessions until he nearly has nothing left.
That's right.
And Moses never changes his tack. You're supposed to be like,
yeah, okay,
70%. The other person's like 40%, 60%, 50%.
Right.
And Moses is just like 100%. He's like 30%, 100%.
Okay, fine.
50%,
no,
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, 95%, 100%. This is the worst kind of back and forth.
Right.
And I do think that having Moses there, having Aaron there, note this. Moses would have had obscure, kind of strange echoes or thoughts about him among the Egyptians, possibly, because he was raised in the Egyptian court.
That's right.
But we're not really sure if Moses is the only one speaking or if Aaron is translating or what's going on with Aaron. But Aaron is a slave. Aaron has no special role. Aaron has no special job. If Aaron is a representative, if he says, Moses, you're going to be like an Elohim and Aaron's going to be like your prophet, they are easy to despise. They're incredibly easy to despise. We think of Aaron, God, it can make you want to cry. We think of Aaron as this majestic, priestly figure, robed in clean white robes. You think about that. He certainly wasn't robed that way right now.
Right.
He's a nobody.
Right.
But he's God's prophet.
And he's approaching.
And he's God's priest. He's the one, it's just, so there are a lot of functional tools that God could be using to harden Pharaoh, not the least of which is Moses and Aaron themselves. Right. And one of the things that here could be, I think there's a little bit of chutzpah, a little bit of brazenness in Moses, because he says, not a hoof.
Yeah, like almost like he's getting like...
Yeah, not a damn thing. It'd be like saying, not a drop.
Yeah.
Okay, not a hoof.
Yeah.
Left behind. And at this point, Yahweh hardens his heart. Now, one of the mechanisms could be this very confrontation itself. And it's worse here because the threat in verse 28. So why don't we read 28?
And Pharaoh said to him, go from me. Be careful not to see my face again.
because on the day of your seeing my face you will die. And Moses said, that is right. I will not see your face.
Again. Right? So 28. Vayomer lo Pharaoh, lech me'alai. It literally is like, go from on me. Get from on me. Okay? Get off me.
So the face is presence, like midst.
Get off me. In my presence, yeah. He shamer lecha el tosif re'ot panai. He says, guard yourselves. It's literally like to guard or to watch. You better guard yourself or watch yourself and make sure you don't find yourself. In other words, like watch your feet where they're going and make sure they don't lead back to me. Because if you see my face again, it'll be the last time you see me. I'm going to kill you the next time I see you. Moshe responds how? He doesn't respond in any kind of quivering or any kind of fear. He responds with, Ken, yes, this is correct. Ken dibarta. Yeah, you've spoken correctly. Lo asif od panecha. I won't see your face again. This is the last plague. So we.
So this is weird because he's saying, on the day that you see my face, you will surely die. And he said, you're right. I'm not going to see your face.
Yeah.
Because Moses is like,
I won't be in your presence again. Now, I think Moshe does. I don't know if Moshe sees him again. He may.
he does, because after the
But here's the difference.
we're not in the throne room, right?
I don't know. Here's what we do know. This whole not my presence again is like, hey, I'm enthroned, I'm set up, and we're in negotiation mode.
Yeah.
This is the last day of negotiation.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no more back and forth.
We're not
between
having
the two
these
of them.
meetings anymore where we're talking.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you to what? Tell
Yeah.
you to get up.
And that's another way to read it too, because more figuratively would be to say, Pharaoh could be saying, enough of this back and forth between us. This isn't happening anymore.
Yeah.
And if you try it again, you're going to die.
Yeah.
He doesn't try it again. And it's
Or
not going to
like
happen
he'll.
anymore.
Yeah. It could have just been, I'll just have the guards kill you when you try to come in again.
Sure, like this isn't happening anymore.
Yeah.
And he's right, you're right. Moshe's like, you're right. It's not happening anymore. There's going to be this back and forth. Okay. And we get to 11.
And Yahweh said to Moses, still one plague I will bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and afterward he will release you from here. At the moment of his releasing, he will certainly drive you completely out from here.
Kala. Yeah, kala. He'll send you completely. He'll send you fully. He'll send you to the end. All of you. I'll drive you out. Yeah, garesh you garesh. It's like rushing you out, like driving you out from this. Okay, verse 2.
Speak in the ears of the people and let them ask, a man from his neighbor and a woman from her neighbor, for objects of silver and objects of gold.
Yeah.
Loot.
Yeah.
Crates.
Yeah. Yep. It is what happens. He says, speak in, address your neighbors, go to them, men and women.
Yeah.
It's holistic. Like everybody who's able-bodied, go to your Egyptian neighbors and take loot. Gold and silver. This is an offering as well. It's a type of offering. It's, in a way, it's kind of like an offering.
And Yahweh gave the people favor in the eyes of Egypt. Also the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the eyes of the servants of Pharaoh and in the eyes of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So they were...
He gave them favor. It's grace. It's actually grace in their eyes. That's the same.
Oh, really?
Grace, yeah. They looked down on their estate like they had grace. They were gracious towards them. They had favor in their eyes. And then Gamet Ish Moshe, he was Gadol. He was.
So it's saying that the people of...
Very large. He was very large, very big.
Yahweh gave the people grace in the eyes of Egypt.
Yeah. He granted it that they would have. He gave it. So Yahweh gave it that they would have favor in the eyes of the people. Again, it's not like people are like, I hate them. I don't want anything to do with them. God's just like, no, I'm reaching all your hearts.
Right.
A lot of it is, because this is parallelistic. because Moses is great. Moses is a big deal in the eyes of the people too, right?
Right.
It's like Yahweh's doing it through these encounters and through these plagues.
So that may be why some of them went with him.
Oh my, yeah, well, it says rabble, possibly some of the higher up ones too, but it says rabble, mixed multitude. So maybe higher ups and maybe lower. It's possible. I don't think it's impossible.
And Moses said, "Thus says Yahweh, about the middle of the night I will go out through the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne to the firstborn of the slave woman who is behind the pair of millstones, and every firstborn animal."
Yeah. Yep. Here he is going to go throughout them. He's going to expose them to his presence. Here's what's interesting, though. We know that, okay, so Yahweh is in the midst of the land. He said that in one of the other plagues. We know Yahweh has shown up multiple times to get up to Moshe. We know that the narrative of Shemot, of Exodus, picks up right where Bereshit, where Genesis left off, okay? Yahweh constantly shows up in Genesis. He comes down, okay, and interacts in the land with doing great judgments, this kind of thing. But here's something Yahweh never does when he enacts great judgments in the Torah, in Bereshit. He never enacts great judgments without at least two heavenly witnesses.
Right.
He has malachim with him, he has angels with him, he has an entourage with him. We're going to be told in some of the Psalms and other parts that destroying angels are with Yahweh and they destroy, similar to Sodom and the angels in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
There are those in his entourage that are present with him when Yahweh himself passes over in the so they are both exposed to Yahweh's presence who will pass through the house, but with them are these strikers of death, this army. So there is this idea that Yahweh has a host, Yahweh has an army, he travels with him through the land. Which is, it's funny that they connect linguistically. Pharaoh saying, get this death off, which is the locust, the forces of Yahweh. And now he's going to bring his forces and there's going to be death.
Okay, and then Yahweh instantiates this on himself. He's still like, I got one more plague and it's going to be this. Why the firstborn?
He's going to say it here, I think. He's actually going to give the rationale here. In Exodus, he is going to call Israel his firstborn. Israel is his firstborn, and you killed my sons.
Yeah.
Now, they're a collective firstborn,
right?
So it's complex. They're a collective people of a nation, and they took his little boys and threw them into the river. So this is, it never, he never addresses that. He never repents for that. He never fixes that. The only way to repent of that, ultimately, I'm saying this now, I think the only way to repent of that is to say, yeah, leave. You can leave. You're free. You can leave. And they don't. So
technically in that last one, Pharaoh doesn't say you can leave. He just says, get out of my face, I'm going to kill you. Mm-hmm. Next time we try to come back here.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't release them.
Yeah.
He tells Moses and Aaron, get the hell out. He doesn't release the people. People are still slaves. So he's going to go throughout the land. He's going to strike them from the throne.
And there will be a great cry of distress in all the land of Egypt, the like of which has not been, nor will be again.
Dark. Haita. It's a ka. It's a call for help or screaming. There will be screaming in the land. This is a horror movie. It's screaming. Mm-hmm. As weird as this picture is, it might be a similar thing. What do you these movies, The Purge, mm-hmm. The chaos of screaming and all this kind of nightmarish, like an entire collective. Yeah, it's something that might be a picture that you could kind of segue from and say, this is horrific. And there will be a great cry of distress on the land of Egypt, the like which has not been nor will be again. Okay.
But against all the Israelites, from a man to an animal, a dog will not even bark, so that you will know that Yahweh makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel.
Mm-hmm. Low, threaten. But the idea is it could be bark or yell. It means threaten, like growl even. It might even mean growl, not even a growl. Like just chill. And then you'll know Yahweh makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel.
And all these your servants will come down to me and bow to me, saying, Go out, you and all the people who are at your feet, and afterward I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great anger.
Mm-hmm.
So Moses,
He's before Pharaoh.
okay, so before he leaves, I guess.
It's
Same conversation.
I don't know. That part's ambiguous. Does he say it there?
Because he hadn't said it and he went out from Pharaoh until this time.
Maybe.
Yeah, because Pharaoh says, the last thing he says is, Go from me. Be careful not to see my face again. You shall die. Moses said, That's right, I will not see your face again. Then Yahweh said,
it could just be like, it could be chunked together, or he could, again, go before Moses because it means before him. Remember, sometimes he stood across the river early on. Before he was brought into his cohorts, he couldn't get close to him. Do you know the reason I think the reason the first time he was instructed to be on the other side of the river is so he couldn't say to guards, just kill them. So like he's on the other side of the river with the first plague. By the time he shows the power of Yahweh, they do get to the place where bring them into the throne room. We know that they're not to be fooled.
Yeah, and he already told all the people to loot them, so it may be a different conversation.
It might just be like, hey, he's saying this is the last thing, and it's a threat. There's no negotiation involved with it. And he warns them, all these are servants. And he tells them, your servants, he's pointing around, your servants. All of these, your servants, will come down to me and bow down to me, saying, go out. And all your people are on your feet, and afterward I will go out.
And he went out from Pharaoh.
This is this explains as a mechanism for hardening. They're gonna hishtachavud. The word is worship too.
Mm-hmm.
These are servants that prostrate themselves to you, give obeisance to you, and worship you. We're gonna do that tonight. Moses is speaking for Yahweh, but at the same time, it's he's a signpost who stands in for Elohim.
Right.
And they're going to say, go out, you and all the people who are with you at your feet. Get out from the land. And then I will go out.
So then it says, and he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. What is that word?
V'yetze me'im paro b'chari'af. So ba is in, chari, and hot nose. And hot anger. And heated anger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moses was.
Yes.
So he was like burning.
Yeah. And and Moses narrated all these wonders before Pharaoh, and Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart. He did not release Israelites from his hand. This conversation it's not neat. So the chronology of it's not neat.
Sure.
And adding in some of the threatening aspects makes it a little bit easier to see why Pharaoh would harden his heart and get to the place of threatening. There is a back and forth showdown. And Moses, not only is Moshe not afraid, he is open, he is direct, and he is intimidating. It's not so it's not the picture of meek little Moses like, oh.
Yeah.
He's in his face about it. That's a great way to say it because they're saying, not in my face again.
Yeah.
Imagine getting heated, and imagine him saying out loud in a court, all these your servants, imagine them in a royal garb. They're dressed well, they're waiting Pharaoh, they're feeding him, they're next to him, they treat him like a god. All these are me.
Yeah.
Which is like,
oh man.
Yeah. What do you call it? Cringeworthy.
Yeah. And he always said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may multiply in the land of Egypt.
Okay.
We just got one more verse for this.
What was that?
And Yahweh,
9. That was 9.
And Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may multiply in the land of Egypt.
Yeah. My
And
wonders, my signs would multiply in the land and be made great. They'd be greatened. They'd be increased.
And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not release the Israelites from his land. This
is a narrative closure. It seems like the person who is writing at this point in the Torah is closing up this little narrative, sealing it up.
Yeah, just kind of like the intro was these negotiations between
Pharaoh
and Moses.
Okay, now we're in 12:1, right?
That's about it.
Okay. Well then, that's it. Bless you guys. Thank you. I'm going to pray.
Yeah.
And, Yeshua, I lift up to you. I lift up to you the freedom that you bring. I lift up to you the cost of the freedom and the Passover. I lift up to you this idea of the firstborn son. I lift up to you each of the firstborn son in Israel having a lamb, what's going to come, and how we need to be rescued, how you are a light for your people inside their tent, and there's no light for others. I just ask Yeshua, you would be a light in us. I pray for your people Israel. I pray that you would reverse the exile and in its fullest extent, the way that there's death in their hearts, there's leprosy in their members, and that you would cleanse your people Israel from all that defiles them, and that you would draw them to yourself. And I also pray, Lord, for those in the world, those your imagers, Adam, humans, Gentiles. I pray, Lord, that everyone hearing my voice would be drawn to you. You are the God, the liberator, who wanted to bring them back to yourself. Those who are under the power of other nations and in other places, I just request, Yeshua, that they would be armed and they would be moved. And I request, Yeshua, that they would respond to the call of liberation, and that they would trust you, and they would actually walk through and receive this blood that you offered in this passing over, and that they would hide in you. They would hide in you, Messiah. They would trust your blood. They would trust they would trust your life in your blood, and that they would be liberated themselves. And they would experience that liberty, and they would experience the Spirit of the Lord that reverses slavery. Where the Spirit of the Lord, there is freedom. You are faithful, Yeshua, and you are a liberator. You are our local Yahweh, and you are our greater Moses. And I ask that you would draw your people to yourself, draw Israel to yourself, draw the Jewish people to yourself through the Messiah, and even reverse the exile, Lord, and draw those who are not your people. It's too small a thing, like Isaiah 49:6 is too small a thing to return captives and the guarded ones back to Israel and the tribes of Judah. But you're going to make the Messiah, your servant, real light for the Gentiles. And thank you that we've seen that light. We want to know you, Yeshua. We worship you in your name. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. All right. Bless you guys.